I should probably share the link too. Oh, hi. Cool. I'm Banana Chan. I am one half of Game in a Curry. We are releasing a game called Judge Dredd Block War. So that's our latest thing. Yeah. Yeah, Fraser. I couldn't see who was next.
It's me, Fraser. I wrote The Veil and am writing Hack the Planet, and I do a lot of blog posts on consumingcyberpunk.com. And I guess Kira, right?
Yes. I am Kira. Good job remembering my name.
I mean the order, right? I know who you are.
I know. That was not a good funny tease. Anyway, so I know you know who I am, but maybe not everybody else does. I'm Kira. I am a queer cyborg game designer, and I'm currently working on a David Lynch-based LARP and a cyberpunk game called Sync, which is a social and activist non-violent tabletop game. That's me. Ooh.
Good. Let's go with Banana Chan. She hasn't been on in a long time.
Sure. So I wanted to talk about Upgrade, which is a movie that came out recently. I was going to say starring some actors that I know the names of, but I don't know their names.
Is that Tom Hardy?
Is it Tom Hardy? Is that his name?
Is it?
Now we gotta Google it.
So when I first saw the trailer, I thought it was the same trailer for Spawn because they look exactly the same. Like
it's a different guy.
Dude. Yeah, it's like this dude who
Logan Marshall Green, who looks
he's like
exactly like Tom Hardy. Clone. He is.
Wait, is that really his name?
Logan Marshall Green is his actual for real name.
Cool.
Supposedly. We know who you are, Tom Hardy.
Wait, so is Tom Hardy in Spawn? Because now I'm... Okay, so Tom Hardy is in Spawn. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
This guy was in Prometheus, Devil, Spider-Man Homecoming, and The Invitation, and legit, every single one of those times I thought it was Tom Hardy.
Oh, whoa. So that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, when I first saw it, I thought it was like the same because, you know, it's this guy who has been taken over by this, you know, other thing, whether it's like an AI / Spawn. So with Upgrade, I was like super surprised that it was pretty good. It's kind of like the time before it's set in this era that's before cyberpunk. Like maybe like when you think cyberpunk, you think like big cities and, you know, dystopian future. But when with Upgrade, it's sort of like 50 years prior to that type thing. So I thought that was really interesting. And apparently no one saw it.
I remember
because everyone thought it was
trailer.
Spawn.
No, I didn't see it. So one of my friends online saw it. It might have been you.
There we go.
I know someone who saw it, and it was you.
So,
I saw the trailer.
yeah.
Yeah, it was earlier this year.
Nice.
So what was cool about it being like cyberpunk, but not yet cyberpunk?
I thought it was interesting, sort of. So without spoiling it too much, it is definitely about technology being bad and like taking over everything, which I think is always an interesting concept. But also just seeing it before it's like completely consumed us, I think is really interesting. And also it's like sort of Black Mirror / like Twilight Zone-ish. So if you see it, it's got that vibe to it.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like the director of Saw or what's that other movie? The Purge or something like that. I don't know.
Oh, The Purge.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Saw is amazing. You should go see it. Sidetrack. Sorry. The first Saw is really good, actually, but the rest of them are just like bloody slasher trash. But I like those a lot too.
So yeah, content warning. There is a lot of gore. There is a lot of body horror, but it's not. There are parts where people get mangled and ripped apart, but in terms of how it like the AI interacts with the protagonist, there are body horror elements to that as well.
Technophobia.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Kind of like the Akira thing, or like what are the old like ten Shuo or whatever?
Tetsuo,
yeah.
The Iron Man,
Yeah, like the 80s kind of grindhouse robot things.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm picturing in the description.
Yeah, I feel like it's very much inspired by all of that. Like even some of the aesthetics of like the house that they go into, like the scenery, it's all very like that time, like very retro future 80s, but not yet retro future. It's like it still has that modern look, like what we consider modern in 2010 or 2018, whatever.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that's like a weird pastiche. Also, you might be happy to know that apparently he's doing Aquaman as well. So
what?
Yeah, the writer.
I'm stealth into that movie. Like I saw a trailer and I was like, why am I so excited about this movie? What is this out of nowhere?
Yeah.
Oh, bird!
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
and also they didn't even like Justice League was one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my entire life, hands down,
Yeah, I
for
skipped
sure.
it.
Yeah, and like the problem, yeah, Suicide Squad was terrible as well. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, especially with Leto being all.
Yeah.
But like one of the problems that they have is that they either obsessed with an origin story with somebody we already are aware of, right? Or they decide to do a group action flick with people we don't know yet, right? And then they're just like, oh yeah, it's Infinity War, and they're all fighting and stuff, and we're like, but who's that guy, right? Like no, they're saying that it's like Justice League was supposed to be the Infinity War thing, right? Yeah. Whereas Infinity War works because we've had years of watching their own movies and we know who they are and where their character is going and stuff. Whereas Justice League was like, well, you don't know the Flash, you don't know Aquaman, but they're all up in this and doing their things. And also the fight scenes were the worst things ever, right? They're just like CGI mannequins hitting each other. But
I'm excited for DC to be like, because Wonder Woman was their highest grossing, and now they've got Aquaman with like gay naked mermaids or whatever, and then they're supposed to do the Birds of Prey movie. So I'm like, okay, if they've got ladies and mermaids, I'm good with DC again. That's all they need. Yeah, it's really beautiful. Anyway, we digress.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you watched Tetsu? It was like very hard to watch. It like I only made it through 30 minutes or something. It is very disturbing in its imagery. So I'm interested in the idea of it without ever having to actually watch it. I remember when I was first doing research for it with The Veil, someone was like, gotta watch this classic. So I was like, okay. And they're like, but be warned, it's graphic. I'm like, I've got it. Okay. Then 20 minutes in, I was just like, whoa. Because it's all about like fetishization of technological parts and like this guy literally wanting it to become a part of himself, whether he like kind of wants to or not, because he's like, it's like a fetishization dichotomy duo weird thing happening with him, and I was just like, this is intense. So if you ever want to watch something similar and somebody says Tetsu, just be prepared. That's really apparently there's 4 of those.
It's like in the David Cronenberg style of like Videodrome and stuff too. Like there's like this slasher horror, body horror, techno fetish thing, like genre, basically.
Yeah, I
personally love. But
yeah, Videodrome I could handle. Like it had its weird stuff. Tetsuo, that was just like
gross.
In that, yeah, it's all up in it. Apparently, the later ones are more kind of like actiony and less.
Yeah.
I'll revisit that later. But
I'm excited to watch the upgrade now.
Yeah, like what would you give it out of 10?
Out of 10, like in terms of
just
the story or enjoying it, I would say maybe like a 7 or 8.
Sweet. Yeah, that's all.
It's very high. Yeah.
Just like when I rate books, same thing. It's just my level of enjoyment. I'm not like one of those people that are like, I'll give you a star for a story, and a star for the acting, and the star for this or whatever. No, it's just overall enjoyment.
But I was also like pleasantly surprised because when I went to go see it, I was expecting like a John Wick ripoff or something like that. So I had low expectations, like really low expectations.
Cool. I'll have to check that out.
Here just to test that my microphone is working and pushing out to the stream.
Oh no! We can hear you.
Yeah, I think I had my mic turned off or down on the mixer. So yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah,
they say they can hear you.
Sorry for that derailment.
No worries. It's all good.
Sweet.
So anything else that you wanted to say about about Upgrade? Is it Upgrade or The Upgrade?
Upgrade.
I think it's just Upgrade, yeah.
Yeah, and it comes out on Blu-ray. It looks like in September.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, pretty soon actually. So
Yeah.
that's when I'll be able to get at it. That's cool. I like pre-cyberpunk aesthetic.
I'm
think.
super curious about that, and maybe we can talk more about that later, depending on what other people's gems are.
Is it?
Yeah.
You know what? It's almost. Oh, sorry. What were you saying?
Is there like a lot of bisexual lighting? That's how I rate my cyberpunk these days.
It's true.
No, there was not a lot of bisexual lighting. It was very red. I remember it being like either really red or really blue.
It was roughened.
Yeah.
It was the poles, the bisexual poles.
I also felt like the technology was kind of like almost human. Like when I know Hamish is about to talk about Almost Human, but it's sort of it's kind of like similar in that they had drones and they had like, I don't know, it felt very very similar, but not there yet.
I see.
So is there androids?
Is the pre-cyberpunkness about the high-tech nature of the cyberware itself? Like, is it relatively kind of low-tech cyberware in a high-tech world? Or is...
It felt like the opposite. It was like a high-tech world, like what we perceive as a high-tech world, but in like
modern day. Okay.
Yeah, modern day. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Is there androids too? Like, are there full androids or whatever?
Not that I remember. No, I don't think there are androids.
It sounds like almost William Gibson.
Yeah, it's like almost there.
Yeah. Like, it's not like quite dystopian or that futuristic yet. It's like almost.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Cool. Okay. Well, Hamish, do you want to talk about Almost Human then?
Yeah.
I can do that. Here's my little list. So I was thinking
That was a good segue.
And
Yeah.
part of my problem was that I really wanted to talk more about Johnny Mnemonic, because that's my main one, the first one I thought of. Because Johnny Mnemonic is a fantastic movie, but it came out in this time in like the mid-90s, where if you look back on it, like the CGI is kind of cheesy, but it's the way it is, and it's only 3 years before the Matrix, but the Matrix sort of is so much of an advance in terms of the way it's presented. And also it was Keanu Reeves in that time when he was just post Bill and Ted, so it was not like it was cool to diss on him. But unfortunately I couldn't find like a good way of watching it. And I started reading the screenplay because I have the screenplay.
Whoa.
It's quite different.
What the hell?
It's quite different, actually. And I was talking to some people on Twitter about it who also were like, yeah, it's really good, but it's underappreciated. So I think it's worth bringing up. In particular,
Yeah, it's also got like Ice Cube or whatever in it, right?
That's true.
It has great people in it.
I remember thinking Molly was pretty badass in it.
Yeah.
It's not Molly. It's a new character because apparently there was like some issue with copyright. Because I guess Neuromancer has been optioned actually as a movie since just about 1985.
It's in pre-production already. Yeah.
I mean, it's been in pre-production for like literally 2 decades, I think. So
yeah, but
I think they might be going to be coming out with one. I feel like this rumor surfaces every now and then. Oh, they're gonna finally make the Neuromancer movie. Okay, we'll see. Yeah, I mean, when I see a trailer, I'll believe it, I guess. But it's a tough female bodyguard character called Jane. Who doesn't have razor blade fingers, and so isn't Molly.
Yeah.
Right. But they still have the same theme though, right? Where she's like a bodyguard, she's trying to get in on the inside track, and they're all like, "Oh, you're too old, right? She's got this cyberware that burns her out or something, right?"
That's the part I couldn't. That's one of the reasons I wanted to watch it again, because I can't remember what cyberware stuff she has. The main
Yeah, she's got
thing I remember are his like neural head thing,
Yeah.
and the Yakuza guy with the monofilament thumb.
Oh
I
yeah.
thought that she had. I was gonna say she had a monofilament, but it must
She
have
doesn't
been
have the
that guy.
monofilament thumb.
No, the bad guy
remember
does.
what
Yeah.
yeah, and also
She might have a katana.
Yeah, she probably does.
Oh.
I think she has a katana. I definitely remember her wearing chainmail, but I do not remember any of her cyberware.
Yeah, I really need to rewatch it again. And yeah, that's so yeah.
Yeah. She has accelerated reflexes that are like cheap, is what it's implied. Like I think they mentioned something about Chiba or something like that. But like how she couldn't get it done there, it's like somewhere else. Like she got it in Mexico instead of Chiba, something like that, right? And the way that they tested, I remember, was like he was like, put your hand like this and hold it there for like a minute or something, and then after like 30 seconds she started shaking and stuff, and they're like, see, you're all strung out or burned out or whatever the thing was. There was some specific term for it.
Yeah, and there's lots of cool stuff like that in there that is super, like, it's because it is it's an adaptation from the short story. It's not like a translation of the short story, but there's enough of that sort of original cyberpunk flavor and dystopian world stuff that it's a good, like, it gives you a kind of good retro future cheesy burst of cyberpunk fun.
Yeah,
and I think underappreciated because some of, I kind of love Keanu Reeves, but also like his acting at times in that movie is a little wooden. That might be putting it mildly, but it's kind of endearing. I don't know. I like it. And there's an interesting bit where you can kind of see, like, he has that. What's that speech? The I want room service speech. I want room service. If you Google Johnny Mnemonic room service speech, you'll find a YouTube clip of it where he basically, and that actually is also not in the script, because I like watched that clip and then I looked it up, and like he has this bit where he's complaining about everyone is out to get him, and then Jane is like, maybe it's not all about you, and then he goes into the super entitled like white bro thing, where like, I want blah and blah and blah, and I want my nice life, and I don't want to be in the shitty part of town.
It was all ad-lib.
I want room service.
Yeah.
And so it's a pretty interesting. There's lots of interesting stuff in it. So I put that down. I also put down because somebody else suggested when I tweeted about this, Marge Percy's He, She, and It, and you've talked about that before,
yes.
right? Haven't you?
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, it's like it's like, it's hard to explain, but it's
Jewish cyberpunk.
Yeah, it's Jewish cyberpunk that is like all about this woman who gets her child taken away because her husband, who she's divorcing, has higher like clearance and rating than her. Like, he just gets promoted and then basically takes her to court and takes her kid, and she kind of goes on like a sojourn quest about it. But it ties in cyberpunk with a lot of mysticism around Judaism, and it's very cool and good. And actually,
like the link between like Judaic golems and like the cyberpunk android, I think sounds super interesting.
Yeah.
And it won an award.
Definitely...
It won like a Hugo or something.
Yeah, I think so.
Like, it's unappreciated. And then I think you made this point on Twitter as well, Fraser, that it's like well respected in academic writing. Just when people think of cyberpunk, they don't necessarily think of it. So that counts as underappreciated, I guess, in the way that.
Yeah, like when you Google best cyberpunk books or whatever, it's always that iOS 9 thing that is all like there's like one woman or something in the whole list. And I don't think she is on it. So, and I think that seems to be what most people populate all their answers from, like the top sliding carousel thing when you Google it on or the articles like that where it mysteriously goes unanswered. But I think it's because when it came out, technically it is after the part where the four guys were like, cyberpunk is dead now. So that could be why, because it came out in like 93, 94, so about the same time as Snow Crash.
But I didn't think it won the award until like 93 or something.
It's a really good book. I loved it. I was really, I didn't know going in, I'm like, okay, we got some Jewish mysticism going on. That's fine. I love learning about Jewish mysticism in general, but it was very thick writing. And then I was like, oh my God, this is all about family structures and religion and women and matriarchs, like multiple matriarchs of generations of families, and, you know, the toxicity that you can carry with you from like genocide and like all yeah, it was just so good. It's like really good.
Yeah.
It blew my mind.
Interesting anyway.
Yeah,
so
it's very
that's
good.
one that like is not it's not really me evangelizing about a gem, but it's one that somebody mentioned and you've mentioned before. So yeah, and then I also put Almost Human on my list, which is banana reference just before the Carl Urban 2013-2014 half season cop show, which I really dug. I only watched it afterwards. I watched it when the DVD of the season came out, and I was like, this is great. Even if some of the, like one of the episodes is just Die Hard. It's just the plot of the Die Hard movie straight up. And as soon as you recognize that, everything, like you can see everything that's going to happen. It's like, okay, alright, good. But which is like fine, because if you're gonna take a plot from somewhere, and everybody takes plots from places, take one of the best plots in the in movie history. That's a good
one of the best Christmas movies.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. That was one that like it only got the half season, and then it got cancelled. But there's lots of cool stuff with the interaction between the you know, initially reluctant to accept the android cop and the android partner who proves himself, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
well,
I do remember,
I guess, but it was well done, and I thought the actors really, like both actors, really kind of for me. How many of you have seen it as well?
I've never seen it.
I've seen a few of the
episodes. It's good. It definitely, I thought, did the Die Hard thing as well, though, with Carl Urban doing like no wrong kind of thing as well, right? Where he's just like the white cop, where he like gets away with just absolutely anything, and of course the most attractive female lead, they have like a thing, will they, won't they, that like never quite happens because it gets canceled.
I mean, it is a cyberpunk police procedural, so everything you think about police procedurals is true about it.
It's true. Yeah.
Within that framework, I think it does some interesting things. But yeah, it's for sure.
Yeah, I really liked how that female lead was like not the submissive, normal female lead in a police procedural, though. She was just like, what was she? What do they call it when they're super rich or whatever? It's basically like the meths from Altered Carbon, right? Is where she's from, but she chose to work in police, and she's basically kind of given the like middle finger to all the guys who are like, "Hey, baby," at the cop station, and
that's also a bit of a trope as well, like the super hard ass woman who can like be one of the boys or whatever, and they're giving her shit and she's giving them shit back. Like, I can't remember exactly how that like played out and whether they complicated that in any significant way.
They started to, and then it was over. Yeah, because remember there was the episode with her and her friends, like all the rich people doing that drug that was killing them all. And she was all like, "Oh, you don't know about my life, Carl. Let me."
I mean, and Carl Urban got to get like a little mini dread on, not in like a hard ass dread way, but like enough that you're like, "I want that second movie. I want that second movie. I want that second movie."
Every time that petition comes around, I sign it.
Yeah,
like every year.
There's something about shows like that. I don't know if any of you have seen Lucifer?
I watched the first episode and I thought it was okay.
It feels sort of like all the same template for a show. Like there's always, you know, that like white dude who's troubled and like, you know, has to put up with, I don't know, their partner, and you know, it feels very Fox.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, police procedurals in general are terrible. But actually, Continuum wasn't too bad for a cop.
It was amazing
sci-fi thing.
Yeah.
Actually,
It's amazing. Continuum is the best, and it's actually
And it's got a lady
Canadian,
lead.
and it's in Vancouver.
Vancouver, blah blah blah.
It's finally Vancouver, though. It's not like
It is actually taking place in Vancouver instead of filmed in Vancouver and taking place in London or what the fuck ever.
Yeah, because Almost Human is also filmed in Vancouver, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't think they even say where it's set, so it's not Vancouver.
Yeah. It. I loved Continuum though. I thought like the last season was like a little bit weak, but everything else was like amazing. Kira is very good in it. I thought like the
main character's name is Kira. Yeah. And it's really funny when I watch things with my name in it. There's a few, and they're always really funny. Like, it's in sci-fi, fantasy, and anime.
Yeah, I saw something recently that had somebody...
Death Note?
No, one of the lines was called Kira, but it was, like, spelt with a Q and an apostrophe in the middle.
Oh, yeah! Was it in Blade Runner or something? I feel like there was, like, I know what you're talking about. I just saw it, too.
Yeah,
I don't know what it was.
Q.
Oh, was it Han Solo? Yeah,
oh, yeah.
Solo
movie. Yeah. It was
because
Mother of Dragon's character.
Kira.
Yeah.
Whatever,
I can't
remember. I recognized her at the time. I was like, I've seen that actress before, but I cannot remember who it is. And then afterwards, it was like, oh, right.
Hilariously, I was not named after the Dark Crystal, which my name is also in, but I was named after Xanadu, the main character's name in Xanadu.
Right.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's so cheesy.
Very cute.
The best thing I think about Continuum, though, is like the slow progression of her past being unraveled every episode, where she kind of realizes that, like, as a part of an authority, over time she was like, oh yeah, that was bad.
My favorite part, so she dismantles her privilege as a cop, as like a white lady cop, which is amazing. Like, that never happens on TV. And then, and the second thing is that in the third season or something, she dies. Spoiler alert! It doesn't really matter, but because she's a time traveler, and a different her comes to that continuum, and then she meets herself, and she's like, "Is that me? Is that not me?" And then she ends up like killing the other self or something. It's totally bananas. Like, it's really good.
And the diversity is really good on the show as well. That was like the first show that I watched in like 2010 or whatever, where it was like 3 white people only, and I was like, wow.
There's a lot of Asian cast, and there's like a Maori dude or something, and I can't remember the whole. There's a few black characters, I think. Yeah, it's overall it's pretty good. It's kind of cheesy sometimes, but it's mostly about the drama of the characters, which is why I love it.
you can get it on iTunes cheap. That's where I got it.
I watched it on Netflix or something.
It's not on Netflix here in Canada.
Sorry. Sorry, Canada.
From what you just said about it, it sounds a lot like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but with a time travel thing instead of a super.
Oh.
It is better than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I tried really hard to like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's my jam.
I really like it.
You really like it?
I really like it, yeah. In part because some of the early, like in the first season, a lot of those early episodes when they're kind of doing Monster of the Week stuff, it's just like, oh yeah, this could be the Sprawl.
Yeah, the first two seasons though, I was like, can Skye not be the main character?
She's the main character. Like, and she's a bit
my god!
Like, it's cool.
Yeah, but 3 and 4 was really good, I thought.
Yeah, there's
once
some
you power through those.
We just watched 5, which ends.
Oh, 5! Wow.
In like, there's some problems and some successes with the ending of it. There's going to be a 6th half season apparently.
Oh, okay.
But
I think
that
I've
be
seen
coming out because it's.
4.
I don't think it's intentional. I think it's because they were umming and ahhing about whether they'd cancel it or not. But it turns out that they basically won't have any episodes in between Infinity War 1 and Infinity War 2, so they won't have to deal with that. Which works out being okay, I guess.
I'm so confused about like the licenses and properties and like what can they use and what can't they use and like which universe is what.
No.
Yeah, and like Cloak and Dagger is coming out, and that's on ABC, and I'm like, okay.
Well, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is ABC as well.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I thought it was Netflix for some reason.
No, it's because the Netflix one's like
you're right.
the dark New York set, and then Agents of Shield is the bright sunny LA kind of everywhere soundstages thing, and then the movie.
Well, and where's Legion fit in?
Now Fox is coming into the thing, so they can cancel X-Men or whatever.
And isn't the Runaways Marvel as well?
Yes.
That's on Hulu.
Yeah, but now the rights are all returning to Marvel anyway because Disney's buying Fox. So it's all
that's true.
One mega corporation.
The mega corp of Disney, which is not terrifying at all.
Is ABC already part of that? I don't know how ABC fits into that.
What was it?
I don't know how ABC fits into that. Are they already part of Disney?
I guess.
I think so.
I
think they licensed it directly from Marvel for that,
Right.
and same with Runaways.
I don't know. Yeah.
Disney ABC sounds familiar though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like I've seen Miley Cyrus or someone on ABC/Disney Channel.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Seems like a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of things in Agents of Shield that are kind of cyberpunk in terms of the tech and in terms of the way they it's more on the tech side than it is on the super side. So you can watch any superhero movie and there's probably going to be some cybernetic stuff, but it's like a little bit more on Agents of Shield.
Yeah, the life model decoys for sure. That's a thing.
Yeah.
I'd love to watch a movie where it's like the supervillain is Disney, like that's the megacorp, and everything else is like super cyberpunk.
So the first like 10 or so playtests that I did of the Sprawl, there was always like a big media company that the players would put in there. Or that's like funny. either like a Time Warner or something, or like a cell phone company.
Discord.
One of those companies that is a pain in the butt in your regular life, and so that as soon as you get a chance to put them into fiction and fuck with them, you do it.
It's always,
there are a few Disneys in there.
It's always Discorp for me.
Discorp.
Yeah.
Did Kira just freeze?
I think she did. Well, she's holding a pose for a really long time. So
yeah.
Oh no.
So yeah, those were mine anyway. I didn't have like any deep thoughts on any one of them, so I was like, shotgun.
Yeah. Sweet. Yeah, He, She, and It is really good, and it's also really cheap. Since it went under the radar, I think I got my hardcover copy. That is first printing for like $5 in shipping or something like that.
Oh,
like,
wow.
Well,
yeah.
I hate to play the America card, but for a paperback, that's about average.
No, it's hardcover.
Oh, okay, all right.
And it's first printing.
All right. Okay, fine.
Oh, Kira just messaged.
What did she say?
What happened? Is it just me disconnected? Yes.
Yes.
Sorry.
Come back. Oh, but if it's doing that, you'll have to remove her from the call so she can get back in. That's what I do too.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
All right,
probably
I'm just
why.
Gonna, let me
Just gotta excise her a little bit.
see if I can. Oh, she seemed to have dropped naturally.
Oh.
Like the computer restarted or whatever.
Well, she dropped out of the like her call dropped.
Oh, okay. Well,
sure.
since she's gone from it, when she comes back, she'll be able to pop back in.
Yeah. So let me just transition back then.
Oh, she's said she'll be right back.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
I see. Now this layout works with the slightly different size that you have. I don't know what you can see.
Oh yeah, because you're in the middle too.
Now you're in the middle, and you've got the slightly squarer, slightly bigger layout, and we're more like kind of like wide.
Oh, really?
Sides. So it's like
It's like I'll show you what I see.
Tapered ends.
Wait, does that work?
Oh yeah.
Can you see that?
Yeah, right. Oh, that's interesting.
So it like squishes.
Oh, I've got.
Yeah.
Everyone's like squished.
Yeah.
This is where we think people's faces are.
That's not my face. That's my thing hanging on the wall. No, I kind of like that actually. That would be pretty cool if we could all have like big vertical slices. I wish you could arrange the screens actually on Discord. I mean, I guess if I was going to do fancier things with this display,
OBS. Yeah.
OBS, then we could do that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, why don't you start telling us about your thing, Fraser, and then you can recap.
Sure.
Kira rejoins
Sure.
us.
So, the last thing that since the last episode, what I have read is Storming the Reality Studio, which is really good. It's like, I would highly recommend it for anybody who kind of wants a snapshot of what Cyberpunk was. Just after it was sort of like declared dead, it was published in like one of the later anthologies. I think it's like 97, 98 or something. So the first half is all fiction, and it's all short splits of it. So it's like the best parts of iconic cyberpunk short fiction, or been ripped from novels to make it short fiction. So it's just like it added a lot of stuff to my queue, basically. Like Metrophage, there's like a little excerpt from that, and then if you like it, then I guess you just like go buy it. And then the later half of it is all nonfiction stuff, and it's all like essays, and it's very academic, which was jarring for me, because the first half is all just like you're reading normal cyberpunk stuff, and then the later half is like, here is exactly what we think cyberpunk is from like 12 different perspectives, analyzed and examined through like people having written these specific articles in like Times and the Atlantic and all that kind of stuff, to actual academic reprints of stuff. So if you don't mind that, pick it up. It's really good. It's really, I think it was like $25 or something like that. It comes in a like the digest size, but a little bit taller. I'm not sure what you call that, but it's like a weird like format.
Academic books don't have their very much like, I don't know, standardization.
Yeah, Kira, we're talking about Storming the Reality Studio, which is an anthology, and it's quite good. And
then
I
juxtaposition of
yes.
Pardon? Yeah, I can hear you.
That juxtaposition of the cyberpunk fiction next to academic fiction and the like, or academic fiction.
Some of it is.
And alongside academic prose is itself kind of cyberpunk, because it has that like crammed nature and sudden changes of direction and all those things that the cyberpunk writers were going for in their descriptive like style. So that's it's kind of cool.
Yeah. It's really interesting. It's good, and the good thing about it too is when I picked it up about a year ago, I got it from Book Depository for a really cheap price, and before that it was out of print. So if you can get it, I would get it, because it's never going to be coming digitally or anything. It's one of those Larry McCaffrey edited things that he used to do. I'm not sure what happened to that guy, but he was really into cyberpunk, did a bunch of anthologies, and then pieced out of everything, I guess.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Another thing I did a piece about was Cybernetic Punk, which is a graphic novel that funded on Indiegogo that was pretty good. It's beautiful. Like, the artwork is incredible. It is very typical noir in that it punishes women in all of their forms. Like, he's investigating his ex's death, who was killed brutally, and then all of the female characters are lenses for which to view the world, which is terrible, of course.
Can I drift for a really quick second? Because I just saw Bound for the first time, the Wachowski siblings' first movie, Bound. It's a lesbian noir, and it is like the best two femme fatales I've ever seen, and I didn't know they existed. Like that, like Jennifer Tilly plays a lesbian femme fatale, and it's amazing. It is amazing. So if you want some good lady noir, go watch that. Also, it's Proto Matrix. So it's really interesting to see their cinematography and storytelling just before The Matrix. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Sweet. Yeah, I'll definitely look into that.
It's really good.
I mean, like, the graphic novel is very good. Just expect it. Basically, it says that it's the bill, like the thing on the back that it says that it is that it's Blade Runner meets Elysium by way of every Raymond Chandler movie ever. So that... like, it is that. All of the problems with Raymond Chandler, you got him at this, too.
That sounds like a description that dates it to a very specific time, like
It
just
is.
after Elysium came out.
Well,
I forgot that was a movie.
That's another one
Yeah,
that I
me
might have put on
too.
my list of underappreciated cyberpunk gems, actually.
Who's
Yeah.
what has Raymond Chandler done?
just
everything.
with The Big Sleep,
Yeah.
lots of hard-boiled noir stuff.
Oh, okay.
Raymond
Yeah,
Chandler
Big
and
Sleep
Dashiell
is big
Hammett are
thing.
the two big names in hard-boiled noir fiction.
I watched too much hard-boiled noir.
Yeah.
I mean, short stories and novellas.
Oh, I read even less hard.
A lot of the stuff got adapted into noir flicks with like Bogart and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the
Maltese Falcon is Hammett.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
What else is what was Red Harvest? The
Red Harvest.
Dashiell Hammett's book Red Harvest was made into something sci-fi and significant. Somebody in the chat will probably know.
I have no
Maltese
idea.
Falcon.
No.
Red Harvest?
Yeah. I'm pretty
Is it the one with the pool?
What does that mean?
You know what I'm talking about?
Raymond
It's
Chandler's
that.
famous, like most famous for maybe in famous piece of unintentional GMing advice is that anytime the plot slows down in your novels, you have a guy with a gun bursting through the door.
Oh.
Yeah,
That's his writing dictum.
I like it.
Yeah.
Things are getting pretty slow.
Where's the guy coming? Yeah.
So, what else? So I also did a blog post on the glitch logs 1 and 2, written by Rachel Beck, which I thought were also really great. I was expecting just sort of like a Die Hard-ish story, typical stuff, but she does some good things with like hiding seemingly insignificant details that come up later, and some symbolic stuff, and in particular the stuff in cyberspace I thought was really great and much better described than most cyberpunk books describing cyberspace stuff. It was really cool and made it very like tactile instead of like a nebulous thing, which is usually what happens.
Yeah.
And the avatar of the person is like a cat too, so that was fun.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
first,
Awesome.
Did you say you'd read the second book as well? Or
Yeah, I
just-
read both of them. Yeah.
The first one is online. If anyone wants to look it up, it's available on her webpage, like in a kind of serialized format.
Yeah, for free. You can read the whole book if you want, and then order it if you like. I also read All Systems Red, which was awesome. Martha Wells did that, and that's the Murderbot series. It's like pretty famous with the Tor series of books right now. It's a novella that's like 200 pages or something, and it's about a sentient android who has hacked their governor unit, and is tasked with basically providing this protection for these humans that she finds super annoying. Not she, it's like an it like there's no pronoun at all. It's always referred to as it throughout it, which Martha Wells is like a fucking genius or something, because the flow of the book is amazing even without any pronouns referred to the bot at all. It's very good, I thought. And it was just a really interesting story. There was throughout it, it's sort of like revealing the past of this Murderbot unit, and also why it's addicted to serial, what are they called? Telenovelas, like soap operas. Like they're always going and doing stuff or whatever, and it's just like, I hope these humans are done with their shit so I can get back and watch my telenovela. It's really good. It's equal parts like poignant, funny, and it's just really good. I recommend it. And I also started reading Wetware by Rudy Rucker. I'm only like 2 chapters into that, and it's okay. I like the idea that it's all like these old people who are given Florida because there's no more EI for them, like unemployment insurance, and they like get all uppity about it, I guess. And so the US is just like, here, take Florida, and they're like, okay. And they're all kind of like bums and retired and stuff. And
Are you going to read the rest in that series?
Yeah, I think so. So far, it's fairly interesting. I think I'm on chapter 3 or 4 or something, so not that much has happened.
I read the first 2, maybe 3. It sort of takes it advances time between the movies and deals with sort of the progression of technology in a quite interesting way between the books. I think it changes tone significantly later in the series.
Oh, does
I'd
it?
be interested to hear what you think about it later.
Interesting. I have the tetralogy book, so
Okay.
I plan on going through it unless it's like really bad and I have to abort or anything.
I mean, I definitely think the first 2 are worth reading. I mean, the third as well.
Sweet.
Dashiell Hammett's Red Harvest, by the way, it was credited as the inspiration for Kurosawa's Yojimbo.
Hey,
It's a significant movie. But
what the hell?
So, yeah.
It's a thing.
That's so weird.
Oh, I also did a piece on Darling in the Franxx. Has anyone heard of that? It's a new anime series that just came out last year. It is super weird. It's like the thing that got me into it was because all these like super left-wing people were describing it as right-wing Japanese propaganda. So I was like, this is about kids piloting mechs. So what is happening here, right? It's interesting because it's the typical mech setup in that 2 people need to be in this mech in order to pilot it, and of course they're doing it to save the world. There's these giant beasts that are rampaging around and all that kind of stuff, and only these like pubescent kids can get into these machines and pilot them and stuff like that. But they've completely done away with any pretenses, and it's basically like they're actually need to be compatible partners, and it's almost like they're simulating sex when they're like in the mech. So the girl lays down like almost like in front of the guy with her ass facing the guy, and then the guy has these like handles that are attached to the girl. It sounds really weird. Yeah.
That sounds amazing. What? Yeah. Like what?
Yeah. So
how many gifts have been made of this series so far?
Yeah. So they're in these like futuristic suits, right? That like eject these 2 handles for it. And the woman is symbolic of the actual machine. So if the machine takes any damage or something like that, then the woman's the one getting hurt. Whereas the guy is just like the pilot and steering the way of the thing. And throughout it, they actually do some work of saying like 2 or 3 episodes in, they're like, the boys realize that they're like assholes basically, and they're like toxic towards the girls who take all of the damage, and all they have to do is steer and stuff. It all has to do with how compatible they are and healthy their relationship is, and how well they will end up piloting. And that's the first half of the series. Like, it's pretty interesting what they're trying to do with it. It's almost like they're on the cusp of like a sex positive thing, but then later on, where it gets muddled with the right wing stuff, is it's definitely takes a turn into let's save family values. Like, at one point, I was super excited at the end of the first half of this because one of the female leads, one of the episodes starts with the instructor being like, does anyone want to change up partners, right? And one of them's like, I want to partner with her. And it's clear, like, I'm a lesbian. I'm not into partnering with this dude. He's an asshole. We don't get along, all this stuff. But they spin it into kind of like a bad thing, basically, where like they're not compatible, it ends up. And she gets mad. She's like, I was really trying for this, right? And she's just like, I knew it wouldn't have worked without a guy. That kind of stuff. And I was just like, you guys were on the cusp of something so cool.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And then, like, later on, some more stuff happens. But basically, like, they always sort of, like, tease the audience with these things where they're like, oh, we could do some pretty cool commentary about this. But they don't. They just, like, return straight up to family values, protect it, and that kind of stuff. So it's very disappointing in that regard. I don't think it's right-wing propaganda. I think it's lazy writing and very centrist. It's centrist, not right-wing, that's for sure.
I mean, it's like any status quo bullshit in America. Like, I don't...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like I started watching the new Voltron on Netflix. There was one lady character, and she's a princess. Like, they didn't change anything. I was like, really? There's no ladies driving this mech? Like, what?
Have you seen Psychopaths?
Yeah, I like that show.
I've only seen one episode.
Yeah, same.
If you're gonna watch it, only watch the first season, because the second season is just like... Just,
what is it with animes that suddenly change like tone and direction and everything in the middle?
Like, I don't know. Like maybe they changed their team up or something. It's a lot of people that make them. So
I don't know, but you should read my blog post on Darling in the Franxx, if only just to make sense of it, because it is it. Put it this way: the first half, I was like, "Why did people think that this is cyberpunk?" Like, and then after that half, it's like. It goes out there, like the tangents that it goes on and like how much stuff happens in the last couple episodes. Like it turns into like these people who are barely surviving on Earth to an epic space battle of a person who, it might be like a trans huge mecha who is battling for Earth, except they also managed to fuck that up.
That's a shame.
Transgender?
Yeah, like it's a huge mech that only works if it takes the properties of a man as well as a female inside, and they use that as like the love interests between the main character, who's the typical like guy who is like all shy and stuff like that and all that crap, with the girl who's like super confident sexually and in every other way, who has to like lead his hand towards everything, right? But
this sounds like someone's Evangelion fanfiction.
It pretty much is, to be honest. But I think, I wouldn't say it's like underappreciated because there's a huge fan club or whatever, and I wouldn't say that it ends well, but I would say that the first half of it is really interesting. Like, I love the idea of a overtly sexual, sex positive mecha thing.
Yeah.
With these kids in a society that ostracizes even just like normal procreation and all this stuff. It would take me forever to describe it, but anyway, I did a blog post on that, so you could read that.
Sounds like an interesting.
The thing that I actually want to talk about is an anime called Marduk Scramble, which came out a pretty while ago, I think. It was originally a set of books that got adapted. The first one came out in 2010, second one 2011, third one 2012. There are like 3 OVAs. It's a movie per book type thing, so it's like 2 hours and 45 minutes or something like that to watch the whole thing. And it's really interesting because it tackles really hard subject matter that I've never really seen Cyberpunk tried to interact with. And it's like a futuristic world in which nobody can commit all these crimes, all this stuff. There's light bridges, there's ads on the skyscrapers. Everything is pretty much normal to begin with, except the main protagonist is a 15-year-old girl who's a sexual assault victim. Like at the very beginning, in the first 5 minutes, you see her like this like mini story almost, where it's like her past catching up with her, and this rich guy essentially murders her, and she is interrogated subconsciously when she is dying, apparently. It's called Marduk 09 is what they use, and basically if somebody is dying and they are a victim, they can choose to use this technology to ask them if they want to be sort of like resurrected. It's sort of like the RoboCop thing, where like they like say yes subconsciously, supposedly, and they are given like a cybernetic body technology that otherwise you wouldn't be able to get, and is like otherwise illegal apparently. But because it's used as part of like a judicial system to get justice for a victim, they're able to do it. And so the whole series is basically about her trying to get like her agency back. And she's like a 15-year-old girl who's a sexual assault victim who turned prostitute, who was like taken from this life in jail from this rich guy who essentially just like uses her for his own aims and then ends up killing her. And when she's brought back into this cybernetic body, she doesn't even have like a voice of her own, but she has this like thing called Snark. I can't remember what the acronym is, but she can use technology around her in order to like speak and make her voice heard and all this kind of stuff. And the whole thing is like she gets a partner who's supposed to protect her, who has a really weird name called Ulfcock, is what the name of the character is. But it's like a also experimental technology. It looks like it's a little glowing mouse, except that she can turn Ulfcock into any tool that she needs. So, for instance, Ulfcock can become the costume that she has that's like bulletproof, or like the weapons that she uses to shoot people and defend herself and stuff like that. And the central premise is that this guy obviously finds out that she's not dead, and he hires a whole bunch of mercenaries and shit to go kill her. And it's about her trying to get empowered again, deal with what's happened to her, but also kind of struggle with like her own sort of revenge story against this person, like what she needs to heal. And at the same time, her tool and partner, Ulfcock, is also somebody who was abused by the other team's mercenary people who like held him as a tool before. And it turns out if you use Ulfcock in like a like malicious way, if you turn him into a gun against his will and start shooting people, then it like hurts him and like he could die from it. And that's what's happened. So it's basically like these two really weird things navigating trauma throughout the entire story. And sometimes it's problematic for sure, but most of the time it actually does like a pretty poignant job of getting to the point. Like just when it's like a little problematic and you're like, I don't know about that, then they're like, oh, but wait, we're going to address that and talk about it. So it's really interesting. The anime is like also gorgeous. It's very interesting subject matter. It's like, I guess it's like a seminal work in Japan from this author. I have the novel and it's like that thick, so I haven't read it yet. But the movies are really cool, and you guys should watch them and then tell me about it, because I have a hard time arriving on if this is like how problematic it is and how well it addresses this stuff, just because of, you know, like where I'm coming from. For me, I'm just like, I don't know, that could be problematic, or maybe it's addressed pretty well, but at the very least it's exploring stuff that I've never seen Cyberpunk try to navigate before, even if it does it well or not. The first one for sure is a little bit problematic because it sends like these weird ass mercenary people after them that are like clearly meant to abstract the fetishization of the female form. Like these guys only kill women and then also take and transplant their like cybernetic parts into them. So there's like really weird stuff going on with that. But then the next two movies navigates the space like a lot more better and doesn't have such overt things. But the way that they do the mercenary team, even as it's supposed to be really disturbing and like supposed to be disgusting for you and put you in a place where you want the main character, Rune Ballo, to like actually get her revenge and kill them. But at the same time, she's using a tool, Ulfcock, in order to exact her revenge, and through his like parameters or whatever, he won't allow for her to kill anybody with him unless it's self-defense. So when she kind of like goes a little bit like she disables the guy but still wants to kill him, and then there's like a scene about that and stuff. So I don't know, it's really interesting. I thought it was really like, I don't know, at least thought-provoking. And I think that yeah, like I said, you guys should watch it and then tell me what you think, because it's hard to arrive on a specific opinion on it.
Is that on Netflix?
I don't think so. I had to buy it on Blu-ray on Amazon for like $32 or something for the 3 movies. It's hard to find, I think. But yeah, at the very least, I think it's worth watching. And it's definitely like in the end, it's trying to use all of the characters, even the like ultimate antagonist bad guy who killed her, as like a lens through which to vilify different aspects of society, especially judicial and justice systems that don't do well for victims. And yeah, so by that, I think it like mostly succeeds. It definitely tries to put all of the antagonists in that box, though. Like, it's trying really hard to give different perspectives from every single character, such to the point where like everybody seems like conveniently placed in the plot, if you know what I mean. You know, like there's not just a normal person there who's like doing their job. There's always like some specific intersectional lens being looked at a specific issue for it. So
for some reason, I don't know why, this just reminded me of, I saw an interview with the writer for Alien, and I didn't know, I'd seen Alien a million times. I love that movie. And I did not know that the writer's intention was to make men uncomfortable with a sexual assault metaphor. Like, he's like, you know, I intentionally wanted it to subvert a gendered assumption about sexual assault, and how like the horror of like an alien invading your body, and like how most of the victims in Alien are men, and then that kind of thing. And I was like, what? I didn't realize that. And that, I mean, it's just really interesting. It's thematically across all the movies, obviously, because like it is definitely like a sexual assault metaphor. But yeah, I don't know. I feel the story you just described sounds really familiar to me. Like I feel like I haven't seen that, but I have seen it in something else where it's like victims are allowed to come back to life and solve their crime or something. Maybe it's like a ghost thing or something.
Yeah, it reminds me kind of Impulse. That's on YouTube. It's like YouTube Red or something like that. But it's not cyberpunk. But the protagonist, she is a sexual assault victim, and she has superpowers. So every time she's in a stressful situation, she basically she like teleports, but in a way that she has like a seizure, and then she ends up back in her room, and everything around her like collapses. So she accidentally like hurts people while she teleports.
Oh,
yeah.
And is it good?
I thought it was really good. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I think season 2 is just coming out soon, sometime this month, maybe next month. So yeah.
It's like a live action thing, is it?
It's like a regular show, like a proper show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. It's really hard for me to judge this one because like I have a lot of empathy and like a personal connection to sexual assault victims in my personal life, so I can't. Yeah. It's hard for me to like gauge the story and be like, "This is amazing. You should go watch it." It's like a really doing like a good service to this stuff. Or if I'm just like so caught up in my own stuff when I'm watching it that I get like a little bit of catharsis from it and then project my own wants and needs onto it. Yeah. It's
like the difference between like a rape revenge story, which is like a problematic trope, right, that you see all the time, and like Jessica Jones, which takes you through like the experience of trauma victims, basically. Like I think there's a good and a bad way to do it. like rape revenge tropes are like, oh, another rape revenge. Like, I mean, it happens all the time, you know.
Yeah. It definitely doesn't feel lazy at the very least. Like there's a through line of consent every step of the way, to the point where they're like, hey, like if we file this case, chances are this guy's going to come after you. Like, do you want to proceed with that? Or should we like work on instead getting you out of the country and protecting you in like somewhere else or something, right?
Yeah.
Like through every step of the procedure of her getting justice and defending herself, it is completely consent based. Like Ulfcock never does anything that is not already given like affirmative from her. So I like that a lot. And then I also kind of liked Ulfcock's thing, except that it played into the civility argument that we see so much now, right? Where it's like, you can defend yourself, but like if you were to kill this person, that would be too far, right? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe she can just kill him, right? Like that'd be fine because he's evil and a terrible person. But instead it's harder to answer that because it's hard coded into the way that he was also made, right? Like it's not a decision where he's just like, no, this is what I believe, so you can't use me. Instead it's like, I am made this way, I'm fundamentally a tool, so if you do this, you may kill him, but you also might kill me or hurt me, right? So
oh no, we lost banana.
Yeah. Whoops.
Dropping like flies.
Yeah. But I think it's pretty good, but I'd like other people to...
I like to watch it. You should mail it to me.
Like, does that sound $30 of interesting?
Yeah.
Well, $30 Canadian, right? So like $20 American.
So $5.
True.
Yeah.
Well, the library might have it, I guess, as well.
Yeah, the library, it's like a massive book because it was only published in English, translating all 3 novels into one omnibus. So instead of getting like the whatever, they have like fancy names for each book. It's like first compression, second combustion, third exhaust, I think is what it's called.
Car metaphors.
That is definitely something that...
Oh, see, like for you guys, it's $18.99 on Amazon to get the whole thing. So I hate you guys. For me, I'm pretty sure I got it for like $35 or something for here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you should do it up and then tell me what you think about it, because I'd be interested to get other perspectives on it. I did a blog post about it as well. Yeah, at the very least, I think it's interesting. And it's, like, so weird. Like, Ulfcock is a glowing little mouse that turns into... It's called a universal item. Like, he can turn into whatever she wants. She just sort of holds him and then projects her, like, mastery over technology in order to get him to turn into, you know, X, Y, Z, whatever, right? Yeah, it's really interesting. It's very graphic too. Like, I would definitely give people like a trigger warning for stuff like that. The anime has like no qualms about showing that stuff happening to her, except that I did note apparently that if you watch the director's cut, it cuts out a lot of that stuff, all the sexual scenes. And if you watch, or no, the theatrical version cuts out a bunch of that stuff, and the director's cut has it. So it's an extra like 3 minutes of more context around her like assault and other sexual stuff.
I didn't think like that sounds what I'd expect if it was the other way around, as you were originally saying. I was thinking, that's interesting that the director's cut would leave that out. Like that would be interesting.
Yeah,
almost like the director didn't want it in there.
Yeah. The it definitely didn't seem like it was male gazy. But
I've never seen an anime that wasn't male gazy.
that's why it was interesting. That's why it was interesting. Like she even to the point where she's choosing her clothes and stuff like that. It's the first time she can go shopping. It's like it's pretty interesting. There's definitely some shots where you're like, but it's not overall fan servicey.
It's not like upskirt shots constantly and
exactly
stuff like that.
Yeah. It's I just rewatched it and I'm still like so polarized about it. It's good. I think it's good. I'm not sure.
It's cool when you can find stuff you're polarized about, because it makes you think about it. It might not be good in and of itself, but I think the thoughts that can arise from it, and then maybe like what it can inspire to come after it, is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I'm glad I got the book too, because I'm sure the book will have a lot more context around it, right? Like or who knows, maybe even the Blu-ray was like a different director was like, no, we're gonna go leaning right into this sexual assault stuff, whereas the book might be like, you know, a paragraph of like, this happened to her one time. So I don't know. Apparently it's also a manga too, so for something that's like not super well known. It has a lot of mediums.
Yeah, that's really weird.
Yeah.
Kira, what was on your list?
Yeah. Banana said she's gonna try and come back.
Yeah.
Okay,
but
cool.
her iPad died.
Oh, makes sense.
But on my list, I had three things. I had what was it that I talked about earlier? The Vancouver show.
Continuum.
Continuum, which is time travel cyberpunk, interesting combination. And then Sense8, which I'm obsessed with and might not be underloved. I don't know if that's cheating. I can't tell. Like half the people I talk to have seen it, half haven't. And then Remember Me, the video game, which most people are like, oh yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, that's where I fall on it too. I know that I started.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people started it. I almost didn't finish it because it's not a good game.
Wow, okay.
So why is it underappreciated?
I mean, as far as gameplay mechanics go for a game, I found it very frustrating. Like any video game where I have to replay a boss fight 5 times, I kind of check out on at a certain point. And it's not like a matter of skill. It's a matter of the correct button mashing, and I'm just like, fuck this. Yeah, that's like one of my number one things I hate about poorly designed video games. And it did have that. The fights were, in my opinion, not very well designed. Although you could do cool things in the fights. There was like, you could have bullet time, and you could like. I don't know. I forget all the things you can do. It was very like 2000s cyberpunk things. Because I think it came out late 2000s. But the cool things about Remember Me. Remember Me is designed by Don't Nod, who did the Twin Peaks girl photo game. I can't remember the name of it right now.
Life is Strange?
Life is Strange, yeah. It's the same company. They're French. And so this is like the game before Life is Strange, and they both deal with a memory mechanic. It's interesting. Like Life is Strange, basically, like it's like Remember Me is like proto Life is Strange. Like it's like they were testing it out, and then they found out, oh yeah, that is the best part of the game. We should make that into a game. And and it has it's interesting. You can like basically the big encounters in the game. Like you go and have like you like meet a person. And you're supposed to change their mind, like their personality and their attitude based on hacking their memories. So like you go into their brain, you rewind and experience a memory of theirs with them. And then you have to rewind certain parts of it to change them so that it heals a kind of trauma that person was carrying with them and then changes their actions in the present day to be better. Or different in some way, and so you have to like rewind and see how the different outcomes play out until you find the right one, which is kind of fun because you see all the possibilities. So that is a super cool cyberpunk mechanic. Like I love cyberpunk memory things. I think they're super cool. Like underutilized cyberpunk things.
How does it deal with? Oh wait, Fraser, you're muted.
What's up?
Fraser was starting to talk.
Yeah.
You're muted.
I have to mute myself because there's a thunderstorm happening.
Oh wow! Yeah, I just had a flash of lightning as well, and we live nowhere near each other.
Yeah, exactly. This one's a long one. But yeah, a lot of cyberpunk examines memory in really interesting ways that I think is really cool. Like from the very first one, Neuromancer, to like all these things. Like even Ghost in the Shell is obsessed with it, right? Where it's like yeah. Memory is just a story we tell ourselves.
It was very Ghost in the Shell in that sense, like more Ghost in the Shell than the Ghost in the Shell PS4 video game or whatever that was. But where like you got to drive around the Tachikumas, which is cool. Yeah. But so I loved that theme. I loved seeing it happen in a video game. Like you just don't see that. And then it had a lady protagonist, which of course I love. Like any cyberpunk with a not man who is in the lead, I'm happy with. So that was super, super awesome. She had like really cool style, and she just had this neat story where like you don't like it's like obvious she's an unreliable narrator, but you just don't know how. And then you like find out in the end that she's like she's part of the problem. Like it's like her family that caused the problem and owns the memory tech, you know. And so she has to like have this family drama and like basically disintegrate part of her own identity to fix the world. It's pretty cool. And so it's that examination of privilege again in like a cyberpunk setting. And but the coolest thing about it was the design of Cyberpunk Paris, like Neo Paris, like that blew my. I was like, what? The illustrations are so gorgeous. Like the art is just beautiful, and like you know the problem with like Asian cities in Cyberpunk, like you know it's not a Cyberpunk city unless you see Japanese writing somewhere, you know, or like whatever. And but no Asian characters. But this didn't do that. It just took Paris and futurized it, and it made like you could get on like there's this huge mechanic, and the other big mechanic in the game is kind of like parkour. So you're like jumping from building to building and climbing up all this architecture that they've designed like so gorgeously. Like it's basically it takes all the old Paris architecture and old European stuff and combines it with like you know neon and glass and new architecture. And you can see like when you climb the tops of buildings, you have like these vista shots where you can look out over the city of Neo Paris and see like construction happening over here on like these megalithic, you know, buildings and structures and architecture. It's like architecture porn. It's really cool. Like the artists, I don't know, they must have spent so much time drawing this city, and then they can go to different parts of the city, and it's like, you know, when you're exploring, like in Persona 5 or whatever, when you explore Tokyo, like the different districts in Tokyo, only it's like the different districts in Neo Paris, and it mimics the ones that exist in the real world, so you're like exploring Paris, and it's very cool. I loved it.
That sounds like a cool like visual set. I know there's a Neo Paris setting in the Sprawl setting book written by a Frenchman.
Cool.
It's a post-apocalyptic Neo Paris. So I wonder. I don't think he lists that amongst his inspirations, but I wonder if it is. It's certainly an interesting thing to think about in that.
Yeah, it's definitely not post-apocalyptic. But there is no Asian writing. Like whenever you see lettering, it's like English or French.
Mm-hmm. How does it deal with what seems to be non-consensual memory hacking? Does it like shine a light on that?
Oh, not at all. No, it's. I mean, like a little bit. Like the main plot of the story is that the company who developed the memory hacking software, you know, they're corrupt, and it's like fucking with people's heads, and they're losing their personalities. And there's like these zombies that wander around Paris, and that they're like the ultimate result of too much brain hacking. Okay. But they do kind of try to showcase the good that it can do in a few scenes with like medical doctors, but mostly it's just like corrupt, horrible technology, and you're not supposed to use it. And she's like a criminal who's escaped from prison.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she it's not moral at all. Like nothing about it is moral. Like they're all like, you know, low life, high tech low life or whatever.
It sounds more interesting than Mirror's Edge though, with like a parkour mechanic too.
That was what I was thinking as well, like female protagonist, big city, parkour.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what Mirror's Edge was inspired by. Like they look very similar, even the protagonists.
I think Mirror's Edge is a lot older, isn't it?
I thought it was newer for some reason. Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe not.
I don't know, but yeah, the parkour isn't too complicated. It's kind of Tomb Raidery, where you're just kind of like climbing and hanging and, you know, jumping and whatever. But you do have to like actually engage with the architecture of the city, which to me is like so uber cyber. It's like so cyberpunk. It's like so William Gibson cyberpunk, you know, like here's a history of architecture. Let us show you as you climb through it to get to your next job.
Yeah, Mirror's Edge came out in 2008, and Remember Me was 2013. So.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess it borrowed from Mirror's Edge.
Or not, but yeah, doing a similar thing maybe.
Yeah, it sounds like it'd be worth playing just to experience that kind of stuff. That sounds interesting to me. Is it like long? Is it like 40 hours or?
Yeah, it took me it took me like a couple weeks maybe to play, and I don't play very long sessions of video games. So yeah, I don't know. I don't remember how many hours, but it's kind of long. It's I mean, you know, be ready for bad fights sometimes, but but climbing through this, I mean, the artwork is beautiful, and just again the concept of like a non-Asian cyberpunk city that's like fully realized and you know has like a history and an architecture that has character. You know, I mean, it's just to me that's like so quintessentially cyberpunk.
HelloNetBeat.com says that the main story takes 10 hours and the completionist run takes 15 and a half.
Oh wow, that's super doable for me then. Yeah, similarly for me, like I used to be that person who could like crush a 40-hour game in like 3 days, but now it's like I have a backlog of so many games. Like everyone's talking about like X newest game. Oh, hey,
sorry about that.
That's okay.
No worries. Yeah, everyone's talking about like the newest game or whatever, and I just beat Deus Ex: Mankind Divided, the one that came out like 2 years ago, and that was like I was like, yes, I did it, I finally completed it. And that wasn't very long either. So,
yeah. I mean, I would love a Remember Me game that was in the style of Life is Strange, like a narrative cyberpunk game where, you know, it's not about fighting, but it's about like the storytelling and the hard choices you make for characters.
Ooh,
Memory winding.
Sorry.
Honorable mention for me then is Red Strings Club. You gotta play that game. It's so good.
What is it?
Red Strings Club.
I've not even heard of that.
It's really? Okay. Well, I didn't think it was underappreciated because you can get it for Twitch. Just gave it out for Prime members and stuff like that. So it seems like it's fairly big or whatever. But it's a small developer, like 3 or 4 people made the game, and it's about like there's no fighting in it whatsoever. And the first thing you're doing is installing upgrades into different people. Like it gives a little readout as they come in saying like this person wants to be more charismatic or whatever, and you're installing something within them that makes them more charismatic.
So you're a street dog?
Kind of, but then it shifts the narrative after that based on the decisions that you just chose now. Yeah. Well, you didn't make a character, but your the narrative is affected by what you give the person.
Gotcha.
Like if you give,
it'll be like more charismatic if you give them charisma. It'll be about like talking to people.
Well, even if you, for instance, in my game, I installed an empathy upgrade into a CEO, and they ended up feeling so bad about all the things that they did that they committed suicide, and then I investigated their death. Well. Yeah, the main game is like there's a
suddenly intense.
Yeah, the main game is you're like a detective who is solving these specific things, and you're a queer character, a person of color, and you're like semi-lover. It's sort of like alluded upon or something, but a partner who is kind of like a fixer who gets all this information and gives you the work, is a bartender who has like devised this method of being able to extract information from people by way of chemical compounds in the drinks. So they run a place called the Red Strings Club. It's a bar. You go there and it can like elicit. People go there to get a drink that elicits a specific feeling within them. But then at the same time, as a bartender, you can take advantage of that and try to get more information out of them. And that's the
like
whole game.
That's like the bar in the one episode of Farscape when they like go to that planet and they're like, let's do these drinks. And then they're all like stoned for like the rest of the episode. I fucking love Farscape. There should be like, I don't know. Farscape is great. That's not Cyberpunk though.
But it's cheap and one of the I know Waypoint did an article on it too, so that's why I thought it was a little mainstream or whatever.
Yeah, like it reminds me of it sounds like Valhalla, which it was also a cyberpunk bar game.
Yeah, I haven't played that one, but it seems like there's definitely some through lines there.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, And the I know
what
the
was that?
developers.
It just came out in January, Red Strings Club, so it's not even a year
Oh.
old yet. So
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
wow.
new.
Right.
And the I know that supporting the dev team and buying it too is supporting queer and trans devs as well. And there's only like
Cool.
5 of them on the team.
nice.
So
Deal.
yeah, you can get it on itch.io too or whatever.
Yeah.
In case you don't like the Steam, right? You can be like
Yeah.
no Steam and
Cool.
still get the game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool. That sounds awesome.
It's $15.
yeah, it's really good.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, I'm really. I don't play too many video games anymore, mostly because they're expensive and time consuming.
Well, this
So-
this one you can finish in like 6 hours too.
Yeah, that's super cool. I'm really
And I remember the music is amazing.
cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. So everyone needs to buy Bardock Scrabble and the Red Strings Club.
Why are you making us broke?
Yeah. It's all consumerism.
So you mentioned Sense8 as well.
Yeah.
Which I love and it's fantastic, and the ending of the special was the perfect way to end it.
Yeah.
But
I like the
is it
last fade
Cyberpunk?
out shot.
Is it Cyberpunk? Okay, you ready to go? Let's go.
Yeah, because it definitely has cyberpunk associations for me, but it has cyberpunk associations because of Mark Richardson's Headspace, which is basically Sense8 the game, but with cyberware that does the thing that the psychics do in it.
So the reasons that I think Sense8 is cyberpunk, I believe that Sense8 is a metaphor for using technology to connect with people all over the world. But, instead of technology in the show, they're using their minds.
Well,
And, it's like, they also use technology and stuff. And it is, but it's basically like, I need help. Can someone help me? I'm going to text a friend and they're going to be in a room with me and they can help me through my emotional problems. I think it's basically the same thing. And also there's hackers in it. Like there are legit hackers.
That doesn't seem like a...
I know.
Okay,
There's also
that metaphor thing is interesting though. I hadn't thought about that.
there's also hackers in Fast Furious. You're correct.
Do you think Fast and the Furious is cyberpunk?
Oh yeah,
I do
100%.
think Fast and Furious is cyberpunk.
Is the technology?
Cars are robots.
Okay.
Oh, implant technology? Did you say?
Yeah.
Why do you need implant technology?
Because I mean, for me, if it doesn't have implanted technology, it's probably not even cyberpunk.
Well, if you look up the definition of cyberpunk,
Because I want something that deals with the. I mean, it depends. Yeah. I mean, obviously it's blurry, and that's why this is an interesting conversation. And I think it was relevant to Banana's example earlier as well. Like, what is cyberpunk? So that there is a pre-cyberpunk. Like, how do you distinguish between those? In the same way, like, what things do you need for a thing to be cyberpunk?
absolutely. And there's like cyberpunk adjacent. I feel like there's a lot of cyberpunk adjacent things now. But I don't know. Sense8 to me is very cyberpunk. Like it's basically about bringing marginalized people together. Through a metaphor, a technological metaphor in my mind, to fight larger systems of power. And they're all doing that in their own ways, and they're even fighting, within their own groups. The people who are hunting them are also Sense8s type of thing. So
yeah, I guess it's the technological bit that is like, for me, it's more of like it's more magical rather than technological, and so it sort of doesn't really fit for that. But it certainly does have the like, I mean, in the same way that I'd say that not every story about oppressed people fighting the man is a cyberpunk story, but it definitely has that, and that is one of the things that I would expect in a cyberpunk story. And also the like big conspiracy that is controlling everything that we don't really know about, but can get them to hire the Eiffel Tower for a private event.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it has like kind of this globe hopping, like spy type. It is actually a genre breaker. Like each character is a different genre. So it's if you look at Sense8 like in a meta film type of way, it's like not really. It's like all genres put together. It's like you got action, you got soap operas, you got gay flicks, you got I mean it's just like a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's interesting about it. It's a very like postmodern deconstructive TV.
And it was one of the first sort of Netflix show to do away with the sort of artificial constraints of ad breaks and how you structure a show around ad breaks and timing as well. Because like the first, I don't know if they carried it through. I stopped paying attention, but certainly the first few episodes were varied in length to a reasonable degree. Taking advantage of that medium. Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely a great show, and it's absolutely underappreciated, because if it wasn't, it wouldn't have been cancelled.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Right there with those.
Yeah. But I always thought of their ability to do that as sort of like a biopunk thing, too, because the oppression is definitely technological in the show as well, right? Like, they're always running from technology. They're running from the dude with the overarching badness for them is that machine that can make them drones, right? Like, the man can turn them into a wage slave through this device that makes them also unique. The only way they're compatible with it is because they're like, it seems like a organic biopunky way of getting to it, right? Where they're all kids from this one person, but the alteration of technology and the pursuit of it and stuff is super central to the gaze of the show throughout it. So I don't know. I thought it was pretty cyberpunky.
So for me, I would totally buy it as a biopunk thing if the thing that they had been done to them. Right, or if that was technologically implanted in them, but because they
had been done to them.
No, it wasn't. They were a separate race of people.
Yeah, but they were awoken intentionally.
Only by by their mother, but not by an outside technological thing.
I imagined it to be
as like when they get to that age, they become sensates.
But
so it's not like. Oh, like a dude in a lab implanted this thing into them, and now they can do this thing.
But she awoken them through that technological device in the end, too, though, right? Like, she put on the thing, and then she shocked herself for pain to transmit it to everybody else.
Right. That's what I had thought. I thought it was both, actually. Like, I totally see your magic point. That like it is like. For me, somewhere between kind of traditional cyberpunk and psychic teenagers on the run. It's like almost the psychic teenagers, except they weren't trapped in a lab having experiments done on them, but that was the threat that was going to happen to them if they got caught. Yeah, and then
they're definitely examining technology through that as well, right?
Yes,
I never actually thought about that part of it, like as that part as a metaphor. Because part of it is that I think of stories that have magical elements like this, primarily like as the thing that they present. Like I try and like accept the conceits of the fiction, which in this case for me like is psychics and thus magic. Right, and so
do you think
conceived of it from the beginning?
That makes sense.
Do you think of Shadowrun as magical or cyberpunk though? Because it is a combination of the two, and it's still cyberpunk.
That's an explicit combination of the two, but the magic part is not cyber. Right, the magic part is definitely magic, and the cyber part is definitely cyber. And actually, in Shadowrun, the two don't actually meet. Like you can't really make the two meet very well. They only meet in two distinct people.
I haven't played much Shadowrun.
I just wrote a chapter about this, which part of it is that there's this dichotomy that you can either be magical and you can and this is kind of a essentializing thing about that, or you can be technological. And it's actually there's very few people in the middle because it's not efficient in the way the rules set themselves up. It's not a.
I guess in Sensei, I just thought maybe this is just my personal bias because I haven't read too much about. I didn't read like Is Sensei Cyberpunk. Because it's the Wachowskis and like everything they do in my mind is somewhat cyberpunk, but it's like it's kind of like a formed family, like a queer family coming together over great distances, and like I see that as a metaphor for what's happening now of how like people queer people are kind of finding their families online, you know, and connecting with communities they didn't know existed. You know, if you live in the boonies, you don't have like a gay community center you can go to, but you've got a forum you can talk to people on. And I just saw so much of that, and like the trans meta text of the Sense8 story in general, that was very much about people who didn't know each other coming together over a shared thing, and through love and queerness and blah blah blah.
I guess I thought of that found family thing. I mean, although obviously Sense8 is a very queer show, I never thought of the found family thing as being the queer thing. Although obviously it is part of it. But there's so many other kinds of found family that I was thinking it was speaking more broadly than that.
Yeah, I think it's both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. But then making that kind of connection to the technological part, that's interesting. I'll think about that some more.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know, that's why it's cyberpunk to me, but it might not actually be cyberpunk.
Well, I mean
it's
all genre theory.
Yeah, I really like the idea, like your comment about it being kind of like a meta genre thing, that like each of the people coming from a different genre, in particular because I love the German criminals firing rocket launchers. Yeah. So I'm a big
gosh. I liked what's his name, Rajma, at the end, right, when she's like, hey, and he's like, I don't know about this, and at the end he's like, oh yeah, this is my shit.
Yeah.
And then it fades out on the rainbow dildo, right? I was like
yeah, like it would have been nice, and this is like something that I've discussed with my partner, like if there had actually been a consent conversation around that, rather than just like a knowing look.
Oh, yeah.
You think it was like a sort of like a pressure thing where she was like,
I mean, you can read that. I don't think it was, but I think it would have been nice for them to remove all doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was no discussion of consent in any of Sense8. It was just assumed, I think, that they could read everyone's minds, and which is not good.
And
it's
true of most people, but not true of him in particular, yeah.
He's not in the cluster or whatever. You know, he's an outsider to the cluster. So.
Right.
Yeah.
But they had, and I'm sure if they'd had a whole third season, then we would have got that. Just like if we had a whole third season, we would have got way more awesome Lido one-liners. And that was...
Lido is my favorite.
Lido was amazing, but he...
And Amanita.
Yeah, we needed more of that group doing awesome things in that.
Okay.
That would have been great in that final.
But Amanita was like the perfect cyberpunk girlfriend. She's like, I'm a motorcycle, dreadlock, dyed purple, wearing leather, vegan, whatever, person who's gonna save you. What's that?
And she reads a lot of books. She worked at the bookstore.
Yeah, she's like worked at a bookstore. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds to me like the perfect like punk story girlfriend, but I just don't like see that much of the cyber in it.
The motorcycle.
It's because
the motorcycle cyber.
Okay,
it's because they're biopunk.
What's that?
True. Well, and they're biopunk. I think their whole body is the tech, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know much about biopunk as a genre, I guess, as much, other than I know that sometimes in cyberpunk you can take drugs to alter and enhance your body. And so is that part of the cyberpunk genre, or is that separate in a biopunk thing? I don't know, because Johnny Mnemonic does it, you know, like stuff like that.
Drugs are definitely cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Gotta get those drugs.
They just make like the side blockers to protect them and Sense8, like all that stuff. I don't know.
It's all technology in my mind. Like, yeah, they're always using tech, or they're using drugs to modify their bodies. Like, it feels like the medium for which this cyber and the augmentation thing is like the premise is that all of these people in the cluster are augmented folk, and then they further modify themselves with technology.
Yeah.
And drugs. Which is another form of technology. So.
I know. I'm definitely glad we had this conversation. I definitely see your. I don't agree that it's cyberpunk, but I see the reasons why you think that it's cyberpunk, and I think.
I I also like hearing your opinions because I want to make it cyberpunk.
I think we can all agree it is awesome.
Yes.
It is awesome. It's like, it's so good. I love how it like hacks your emotions as you're watching too. Like basically it's just a very emotionally manipulative show. and it like relishes in that. It's not like, it's like, no, we are overtly trying to make you feel things by watching this show. And like the characters are going to feel things and you're going to feel things. It's a very emotional experience. And I think that is so innovative. Like, I think a lot of media is heading that way recently with being more emotionally manipulative in general. Like I see it happen a lot now. I can't think of a good example. I just saw something that was exactly that thing this weekend.
Yeah. Well.
But I like how Sense8 is just like very obvious about it. Like they're not trying to trick you. They're like, no, this is actually just an emotional show.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. Because there's a thing where lots of media is trying to do that and is pretty obvious about it, but is like stupidly obvious where they're not like winking at you like Sense8 is. You know what's going on with Sense8 and you know that they know that you know. But whereas if you watch some other movie and they like play the score in a resounding way when the dog dies, that's the same thing. It's just dumb, right? Because we've seen that a million times. But this was doing it in a new and unique way that was interesting and talking about like sort of things that don't get discussed a lot.
Yeah.
So
good.
Yeah, it's consensual manipulation.
Consensual manipulation.
Especially when the thing pops up where it says, "Are you still watching?" Right?
We don't do that anymore. Netflix doesn't do that anymore for me. And it starts playing things when you hover over them to read what they're about for 2 seconds. I feel like Netflix has gotten less consensual.
Netflix is like, okay, I know you. You're going to binge this, so that's cool. Do you want to binge this one right now? I'm still going to stop playing with you. We just watch it, right?
Yeah, that's what's happening, basically.
I think it only pops up for me after 2.5 episodes.
Oh, so
wow.
2 and a bit.
Oh, wow.
We've definitely watched 2.5 episodes in a row recently and have not had that. So.
Oh,
yeah, we just
maybe it's an
marathon.
American thing. In Canada, we have laws, people.
Like, this is madness.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. So, anything else that anyone wants to bring up in terms of underappreciated cyberpunk?
I feel like we could talk about this forever, but I'm pretty good for right now.
Yeah, I'm good. Especially since I have a game in 8 minutes.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh.
Should
so
go.
you're going to Gen Con, right, Kira?
No, I'm not going to
Gen
Gen Con. None of us are going to Gen Con.
Driving down the road, okay. So
Yay, Gen Can't. This is our Gen Can't.
Like Gen Con party. Yeah, it's only 3 hours away from me, but then you have to pay $20 for parking every night, and where am I going to stay? And it's the food cost issue. It's just still money.
Yeah.
But Kira and I will be going to Neon Retro Fest in Rhode Island in, what is that, 2 weeks? 3 weeks? 3 weeks?
The end of August.
Yeah, the end of August.
I'm so jealous.
So we will report back. This is I think, the first time they've done like a Neon-y. Yeah,
it is the inaugural Neon Retro Festival.
It used to be TempleCon, which I don't know very much about, but I've heard about in the past. So we'll probably... Because you were wanting to talk about retrofuturism, right, Banana Chan? Is that?
Oh my god, I love retrofuturism.
So maybe after we get like a weekend dose of it, we'll have like a discussion post. There's going to be a lot of synthwave bands, so I'm interested in checking up some of those. So if any of you, either on the screen that I'm looking at right now or out in the wider internet world, have a particular synthwave band you want me to check out, then tell me about it. I will. Because I won't be able to go to them all, but I'll try and hit some.
Nice.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Synthwave is very fun, and I love it.
All right, so in the interest of Fraser getting to his game, we should all sign off.
Yeah, I guess we should.
Yeah. So, Peregrine Kiwi on Twitter here, and this is my Twitch stream, Hamish Cameron, and The Sprawl. Kira.
I am Akira Nanzi on Twitter, KIRANANSI. That's it. I'll see you there.
Slowly sinking into the darkness. Fraser.
I am Fraser. You can find me at Fraser Simons everywhere.
Literally everywhere. He's in my closet right now.
All the social medias, even on Tumblr, and I don't know what I'm doing there.
All right.
Only on there. Everywhere else I'm a master. That's not true.
Banana Chan.
Banana Chan. You can find me on Twitter at banana_chan_vid. Yeah.
Alrighty.
Well,
All right, good talk, everybody. See you all next time out in the wide internet world.
Yeah, I'm glad we all thought that Sense8 was Cyberpunk. See ya.
Stop streaming.